As is perhaps a bit obvious by this very, very green vestment, you can tell we are traveling and celebrating now in ordinary time as we lift up this 11th Sunday of ordinary time. In today's gospel, Jesus instructs those being sent out to not go into pagan territory, but only go to your very own, the lost sheep of the house of Israel. Later in Matthew's gospel, Jesus tells a Canaanite woman that his mission is only to his own people. It is not until the end of Matthew that Jesus sends his followers out to make disciples of all the nations. What began as a movement directed to one special and defined people soon expanded to include all people. God's love is indeed without limit. The passage of Matthew's gospel that we heard today includes the only time that Matthew uses the word apostle, which translates the sent one, as a way to describe what it means to follow Jesus. The more commonly understood definition of being a disciple is to be seen as the learner. As today's disciples, we are called to learn the wisdom of the sojourner's truth. The theme of journey, which is near and dear to us here at St. Joan of Arc, to sojourn, if you will, or to travel, this indeed is their truth. If we laugh and sing a little as we fight the good fight of freedom, it makes it all go a bit easier. We will not allow our life's light to be determined by the darkness around us. At the sight of the crowds, Jesus' heart was moved with pity for them because they were troubled and they were abandoned. As I just mentioned, even in today's world, most assuredly, we will not allow our life's light to be determined by the darkness that surrounds us. Then Jesus summoned the 12 and sent them into a world of chaos and injustice, and reminds them, without cost you have received, without cost you are to give. When one seriously considers the 12 individuals chosen by Jesus as the, if you will, first round picks for team discipleship, one can't but see a bit of a comparison to the 1967 movie entitled The Dirty Dozen. There are people here today who would have no clue what that movie was about. The Dirty Dozen, indeed, God help us. Misfits indeed called forth and sent out for a seemingly impossible mission. Not to mention, supposedly, we hear, that it was all men, and quite likely not overly inclined, not one of them, to ask for any directions or to ask for any advice. As a male, I will willingly confess to that. For those of you, my counterparts, who do not, I will take the hit for us today. We have two sets of brothers in this Dirty Dozen, and they quite likely brought along a large amount of their own family dysfunction, for starters. We also have a tax collector of whom most members of the community would choose to evade if at all possible. We also have a hot-headed zealot, one who would ultimately betray Jesus primarily because he felt betrayed himself. And we have the remaining of the 12 apostles who would probably cave, and did indeed predictably cave, to their own fears, to the point of even denying that they knew this Jesus. If that was indeed the A-team, quite literally, God help us. And God help us for very good reasons to this very day. We are always in need of reimagining ourselves as how to be church in an ever-changing and a very complex world. As flawed as the original calling forth of the apostles, we are still to this very day searching for ways to be hopeful and effective in making a change for good in our world. I share this reading from Rabbi Abraham Joshua Heschel, a Polish-born rabbi, theologian, and philosopher. In his words, "Religion declines not because it was refuted, but because it became irrelevant. It became dull, oppressive, and insipid. When faith is completely replaced by creed, worship by discipline, love by habit, when the crisis of today is ignored because of the splendor of the past, when faith becomes an heirloom rather than a living fountain, when religion speaks only in the name of authority rather than the voice of compassion, its message becomes meaningless." All faith communities are hungry for and deserving of compassionate, believable, honest, and creative leadership. Since the election of Pope Leo on May the 8th, 2025, it is at least my opinion that not only members of our own faith community, but in fact the world at large, as well as our divided United States, have a reason to be more hopeful. Not just because Leo, or as he was known to be called in South Chicago, Bob. Bob and I completed our basic theological training at the same graduate school in South Chicago, a fact that I have merely mentioned no less than 100 times since his election in 2025. That's a little over a year. I don't think 100 times is that much. In his move, Bob, to the front office, it is important to note he hit the jackpot here. It would be quite the responsibility. According to canon law, the Pope, and I quote, possesses supreme, full, immediate, and universal ordinary power in the Church, which he is always able to express freely, end quote. In other words, Leo could have issued a slew of canonicals equivalent of executive orders in his first days of office. Like someone else with a Sharpie in hand, who today shall remain nameless, at least for this moment. Instead, as opposed to Leo, lived up to his reputation as a person who listens before deciding. During this month of lifting up and celebrating Pride, I am reminded and reassured that God most definitely has a dream. I find myself increasingly convinced that God's dreams are fundamentally freedom dreams. Dreams not intended just for a few people, but for all people. For all people. There is a liberating way of living in this world and a liberating way of being church once we finally realize and claim the fact that we are the church. There's a real possibility of living a fundamentally unchained life, to be truly alive with God's life and in God's world, which is our world. The shared priesthood of all believers is a liberating spirituality that calls all of us to share in this ministry. I would say to each and every one of us, and I would also direct this comment to all those generally young men who have been ordained to the Catholic priesthood this spring. Hear these words, remember these words. If serving is below you, leadership will always be beyond you. In closing, it is always the time to reimagine pastoral leadership within our faith community. I pray for, and I expect, a renewed and robust level of enthusiasm and commitment for further study, further discernment, and ultimately restoration of ordained ministry to the women in our faith community restoration of ordained ministry to the women of our faith community who are currently and clearly called to serve in ways that are currently denied. From my lips to God's ears. May we respond to the Spirit's prompting to be in good trouble, lots of good trouble, and to work for justice for all people, for all people. A quiet amen. Amen. Our gospel today reminds us of being called to discipleship, to being of service to the world around us. For the times in which we turn away from that call, Lord, have mercy.
Lord, have mercy.
Christ, have mercy.
Christ, have mercy.
Lord, have mercy.
Lord, have mercy.
We extend our prayer today into the world in which we live. Minneapolis officials say the Trump administration's federal immigration crackdown cost residents and businesses nearly $700 million, according to their latest estimates. The dollar amount covers the months of December through April. The federal immigration operation cost people's jobs, emptied out businesses and hotel rooms, and left many people fearful to leave their homes. God of healing, hear us. Pope Leo is challenging countries to uphold migrants' rights while admonishing those leaders, including Christian, who turn them away with indifference. Leo's impassioned plea included stating the fact that human dignity has no passport and does not lose its value when crossing a border. God of diversity, hear us. And on this first year's anniversary of the tragic deaths of Melissa and Mark Hortman and their dog Gilbert, and we welcome their family here today in the same way that we welcome them the very day after their family was murdered. We join their daughter Sophie and their son Colin, as well as Melissa's parents Linda and Harry, and all other family and friends, as we pause to remember and to give thanks. May their memory be a blessing. Please join with me in the litany of remembrance, and after each stanza, if you would please say, "We remember them." In the rising of the sun and in its going down, we remember them. In the blowing of the wind and in the chill of winter, we remember them. In the opening of the buds and in the rebirth of spring, we remember them. In the blueness of the sky and in the warmth of summer, we remember them. In the rustling of the leaves and in the beauty of autumn, we remember them. In the beginning of the year and when it ends, we remember them. When we are weary and in need of strength, we remember them. When we are lost and sick at heart, we remember them. When we have joys that we yearn to share, we remember them. So long as we live, they too shall live, for they are a part of us. We remember them.